What's going on? Shane Serrano here, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to mount your Karakoram Splitboard Bindings onto your split board. This is my setup and I'm just getting it dialed for the first time right now. I'm throwing the Karakoram Recons onto a 158 Jones solution, and I'm going to show you how to do all of that. If you're just getting into splitboarding, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be throwing out a ton of content this year about splitboard gear, how to splitboard, and then fun missions that I'll be going on, so you don't want to miss that. So when I'm starting out mounting bindings onto a splitboard, I like to start just going with the bindings right away, get that out of the way, and then we'll deal with the uphill hardware after that. So I've got my stance 22 inches wide, eyed up on the bolts where I'm going to be dropping the bindings, and I got my Allen keys that come with the Karakoram bindings, and we're just going to get right into it. So I've got my plates here. This is going to be the top plate for your toe, and then this is going to be the back plate, kind of where your heel sits. Your pucks should come all together inside your binding, but if they fell apart and you don't know how all this hardware goes, you have this main piece for the toe. That sets right into this little lip right here. And then you have this little metal piece with your hardware. That's going to set with the teeth facing the teeth on the puck, just like that. So that's going to be the toe plate. And then for the heel plate, same kind of deal. This metal piece sits into where that plastic piece is, just like a puzzle piece. And then the metal teeth face the plastic piece on that. Hardware goes in there, and you're all set. So I'm going 15 degrees on my front foot. I'm lining that little arrow up right at the 15-degree mark. This little line here is to micro adjust laterally if you need a slightly wider stance or a narrow stance than your inserts provide. If you line the two lines up just like that, that is centered. And then on the back foot, I'm going to line this up at 15 degrees as well. This piece is going to be facing the opposite way that the top piece was, so I'm lining that little arrow up with the 15-degree mark all straight. So I'm going to start with this top plate. I've got it lined up. I actually bumped this a hair to the left just so I have the right stance width that I want. Starting with this, using the Allen key, just going to tighten them down a little bit here. So it's important to tighten these just loosely so that you're still able to move this, so that when we throw this puck on, we can line it up and adjust if we need to. Because I bumped this line to the right a little bit, I have to do the same on the plate here. So that's all set. You want to make sure that these kind of line up like puzzle pieces. Tighten these down just very loosely. And now we're lined up. The most important thing when you're lining up these pucks is to make sure that both the angles are matched up correctly on the top plate and the bottom plate so that the binding can lock in square. Now that I feel like it's a very tight, snug fit, I'm going to go back and tighten the screws. I go until they're just a little bit tight before I have to crank down hard. Do that for every one. And then once I'm done, I tighten them all the way until I can't tighten them anymore. Just want to make sure that your screws are all very tight because you will be putting a lot of torque on all of your gear when you are splitboarding, whether you're climbing or riding. And that feels good. Now that we've got the plate on, go ahead and take your binding, open up the heel, and then these two metal tongs right in here are going to set onto the metal tongs of the binding right there. You're going to push down on the heel and then pull that heel loop back up and it'll snap in. It should go on easy, and then it should also come off very easy like this. Pull that heel down, push it down all the way, and it should just lift right off the binding. If it doesn't do that, that just means you have to straighten and align your two plates out a little better and make sure that the angles match up exactly. The angles on the top plate get locked in with the little teeth there, but the back angle is free without any teeth. So you just want to make sure that is lined up exactly the way the top one is, so your binding sits on perfect. Now that you have your front plate mounted up, go ahead and do the same exact thing on the rear foot, and make sure to use your tape to double check that you have your desired width so you can place that foot where it needs to be. I went with 22¼ inches wide on this board. That's the closest I could get to 22½, what I like. So that's gonna work just fine. And then I went 15 degrees on the front foot and -9 degrees on the back foot. All right, now that your snowboard positions are mounted, we're gonna go ahead and mount the touring hardware. We're gonna start with the top toe piece, and then we'll do the heel second. First important thing to keep in mind with the top hardware versus the bottom hardware is that these are two different depths of inserts. This is going to be a shallower depth. So you have two different size screws for both of these hardwares. On my bindings, they are two different colors. The black one is a little bit smaller and the silver one's longer. So the shorter screw is going to go in the back for these 4 hardware, and then the longer silver is going to go up on these 6. One thing you can do is count them out. I know that I have 6 of these hardware pieces, so that's going to be 3 for that side, 3 for this side. For these back 4 screws, Karakoram gives you 10 of those screws, and these are to replace screws on your bindings if you lose any, or of any of your hardware. But just make sure that this is a shorter screw than this screw. So I got 2 there, and we're ready to rock. Mounting these hardware pieces is pretty straightforward. You just match up the triangle holes on that piece with the triangle on the board, and there we go. You're gonna do the same thing for this piece of hardware, and then we're gonna do the heel second. All right, now that we have both of these hardware pieces set, we're gonna throw the heel guys in, and the way that these go on is that this metal piece faces forward, so this metal piece is gonna be closer to this hardware piece. We're gonna start with just the top screw. Screw that in just a little bit so that this hardware piece can move, but it's not gonna go anywhere, just like that. Then we're gonna flip the heel so that this hole is accessible. Same thing, put the screw in just a little bit. The reason that we put this hardware on very loose is because it does have room to slide up and down, just like so. So we're gonna find the correct position. All you gotta do is pop that hardware back all the way. So take these 2 metal pins there. We're gonna set it into the front of this hardware piece. Lock it down. And then we're gonna flip this heel up. Bring the binding down, and you're gonna want this flat piece here to set into the notch of the binding right here. So kind of right there. I know that's a good position. If it was too forward, it'd be hanging off a little bit right there. So for this binding for me, this piece of hardware is gonna slide all the way back, and that's a good position. Now I can tighten these screws down all the way, and we'll be good. All right, you are all mounted up. The last thing that you're gonna wanna do is to split your board into skis, put it back together into snowboard mode, and then throw your bindings on to make sure that they line up again just as easily as they did the first time, so that you're kind of getting rid of all those issues before you get out on the snow. And there you go, you are all set to go splitboard now. It's not the craziest, hardest thing to do, but there may have been some tips that I just showed you to make things a little easier. If you got any value in this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or comments about how to set up your splitboard setup, leave them below and I will answer them. But as always, thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.